Since 2020 has totally sucked balls, I decided I wanted to do something fun, something that interested me. Well, here it is, my own podcast. The whole point behind this, I got a lot of shit going on inside of this brain, thoughts outside of my regular job, which is in hockey, and I have all kinds of other interests. I love music, guitars, motorcycles, the arts, and even a good old-fashioned bungee jump. And through this downtime and lots of thinking, I said, screw it, I'm going to do a podcast where I talk to some really cool people about some really cool shit. And I thought there really isn't a better time than now, seeing as that I don't have a job. Anyways, I really hope you like this. I've lived all over the world, met some really cool people. So you'll get to sit in with me and we'll basically have a big jam session. So let's stop pissing about and welcome to my Motley Thoughts. My guest today is super stoked about. Gentleman, fellow Canadian from Terrace, BC, moved to New York in 96, then to LA in 2000. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ian, when I'm doing this. Regular at the Comedy and Magic Club in Hermosa, finalist in NBC's Last Comic Standing. Been on Late Night with Conan O'Brien, Tonight Show, Wrap-Up Show and Howard Stern, Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson and Jay Leno, yada, yada, yada. He also has a new album called Everybody Wants Some, which I highly recommend you check out on all the platforms. My friend, comedian, and below average beer league hockey player, Mr. Ian Bagg.
I love it. I love a good smack in the face from real hockey players, because all the comic friends that I have, they think I'm a wizard, you know. It's so funny. I'm just like, oh my God, you're three-legged donkeys, because I'm a donkey. So it's awesome.
I remember you posted something once a while back, and you were on the ice with Helly.
Yeah.
And I had Helly when I worked in Winnipeg, and it was out of the blue. I had no idea you even knew them, and then you were on the ice with them. I was pissing myself.
You know, it's so funny being. I don't know what it is in my brain, but all I could think was, even though there's no way this can happen, what if I, like, even though, you know, the people that we know are like, go out and have fun, and Wade's yelling at me, shoot, I know you can shoot the puck, but I'm just like, because in my head also I'm like, I shoot and it hits him in the Adam's apple, and I cost millions of dollars. But I guess that's what makes me. I go just insane. I'm like, what if I hurt him? They're like, you're not gonna hurt him. You can shoot, but you're not gonna hurt him. But in my head, I'm like, I don't want to get anybody hurt, anybody in trouble. There's millions of dollars on the ice. I don't want to touch it.
I forgot Flats was on there too, eh?
Yeah.
So you had a lot of pressure.
Oh, a lot of pressure. Guy that you grew up with, heroes that you just seen on TV, and then some kid that's stopping everything that comes near him. So it was great.
It made me howl, seriously. One of the things actually that my son and I were just talking about is a long time ago when they were kids, they were totally into that movie, MVP.
Right.
Well, get this. I had no idea. So we're flipping through and we thought, let's watch this one. It's MVP 2. And I'm like, what? That's freaking Ian.
Yeah. That's my hockey claim to fame right there, my friend. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. Playing hockey with a chimpanzee. You know, it was such a bizarre little, like, how it happened. So I signed with this management company, and of course it's like in anything, they always ask you, what do you want to do to get a kind of a feel from you, right? They always say that after they signed you, and it blows my mind. I'm like, shouldn't you know this before you sign me, just in case you don't have any connections on what I want to do? And I was tired of the question, because I'd been through a couple of managers and I'd been through all these meetings, and I decided on these guys, and then the people that I decided on are dumb as rocks too. So, you know, so I go, I want to be in a hockey movie and I want to work with a chimpanzee. That's what I said, right? And thinking that, honest to God, 3 weeks later to the D, what if you could work with a monkey in a hockey movie? Like, what?
Are you serious?
I couldn't even, it was so, and I'm just like, all right. And they're like, "Yo, we're friends with the producers. We want to get you in." I met them. It was a Robert Vince. He's from Vancouver. We got along great. I did some stupid Swedish accent for them. They thought it was stupid. My character did nothing but eat hot dogs and play hockey and hung out with a chimpanzee. So it was great. Yeah, I just had a great time. And and you know, it's like anything. People are nuts as well. Like the director would come on the ice and tell us to keep it real, and then push a monkey onto the ice, to play hockey. I was like, okay, all right, yeah. And I get yelled at all the time. I get yelled at like, we have to do that again because Bagg was just paying attention to the chimpanzee because you're just like, we should play with him. We should play with him a little bit. So yeah. And the trainers didn't have to. He could skate better than the trainers. It was awesome. It was so good.
Oh, we watched it quite a few times. Just the parts you were in. That was it.
That's it. Perfect.
It was hilarious. Absolutely.
It was a good time. So, and we got to hang out at GM Place, film there for a bunch of, I remember Marcus Naslin came down and one of the security guards kicked him out.
Didn't know who he was.
Didn't know who he was and kicked him out, and everybody's like, no. So stupid.
A few movies that when it's based around hockey, they always seem to be floating around here.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you, right? Why wouldn't you? Why? That was such a great place. All those rinks that are around there and stuff, and you can get the talent. And, you get the hockey talent as well as the actor talent because everybody comes there for acting.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm guessing. So
I remember back when Happy Gilmore came out,
mm-hmm.
and we're watching the beginning, and with the film footage of when he's a kid,
mm-hmm.
and he's trying to skate around. He's off. He's got the big fro. And then he lines up for pictures. He's got a frickin' North Surrey minor hockey jersey on. The exact same jerseys that I had when I played.
It was probably somebody got them from, how everybody turned in your jerseys at the end. They probably got them from a locker room. Like that's what they do. They just go into those buildings and see what they can get. Right. So.
He must have looked at some pictures too, because we had dudes on my team that looked exactly like that with big froze stones.
I'm positive somebody that worked on that movie just brought in pictures from home and said, this is what and so probably somebody you grew up with. So
yeah, no doubt. It's hilarious. Speaking of where I'm from, for the listeners that when I did the intro, I said you're from Terrace, BC.
Terrace.
So is it a mile wide?
Oh. Mile long. I don't even know if it's more a trailer. It's more like a trailer. It's not that wide. It's longer. It's longer than it is wide. So
one trailer park.
Yeah, it's not that. Yeah, it's not that tiny. I think it's about 11,000 people, but it's just there's nothing around it. Right. As soon as you get out of the city limits, you're not stopping for gas. If you're low, fill up before you leave, kind of thing. So. Yeah.
Other than you, I think I've met one or two people. I remember my first year junior, he said a guy played with, he was a veteran and I was just a kid. And he said, I'm from Terrace.
Who was that?
I can't remember. I played with him my first year in Summerland in the BC Hockey League.
Uh-huh.
I think that's who it was. Anyways, I was like, I had no idea where anything was back then. I went to Summerland and I didn't even know where Summerland was. And I'm sure that wasn't much bigger.
No, but you could get to Penticton within 10 minutes. That's the difference.
Kelowna, Penticton. Yeah. It was all really nice there. But yeah,
Wade. I grew up with Wade in there. So yeah, and probably Jeff Sharples. You probably know him.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm sure there's some hockey players that I played with or knew that I didn't know they were from Terrace.
You played in New West, right? Is that where you played? Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm trying to think who went in New West. Lance Carlson. Would he have played there? No.
That was before.
Yeah.
Yeah, Billy Ranford. It was Billy was before me. Then I came in at the tail end of the New Westminster Bruins. So I was with Scott Daniels, Link Gates.
Yeah.
It was the big goon squad at the end.
Yeah. Well, they were always known for being tough. I remember I went to some camp and I'm trying to think who there was the coach from no, was it the owner or somebody had money. Somebody had money, right?
Mr. Dixon had money.
Somebody was at this camp that I was at, and they're like, well, we want to see him because he's big, and then there, I was 14, and there's guys with beards, and just like, I'm just like, this isn't for me. Being punched in the face is not as fun without a shield. So yeah.
Back then it was nuts.
Well, I just remember there was guys that would do weird things like tie themselves up and then have to break out of the ropes. That was their pre-game ritual or something like that. It was just weird shit like that. I'm like, oh God. Yeah.
I remember my first year pro. When I was kind of naive and everything, and I get there, and my roommate was Steve Fletcher.
Mm-hmm.
He was this half black, half white guy, and huge fighter. And he used to go into this other spare dressing room that had toilets in there, and sit in the toilet, have a smoke, and take his sooties.
I remember those.
That was his pregame.
Oh my God.
And then he'd come out and you could see his eyes were just wired.
Yeah, I remember trying that. Yeah, it's funny because the guys that I grew up with that went and played were really, really tough guys, but it wasn't scary when you played midget with them or like stuff like, but for some reason that next jump was just like, no, and I'm kind of a mama's boy, which is weird because I get off on traveling, but at that age I was like, I don't, because we had to go so far away to play. Being from Terrace, you didn't, it wasn't like you're going like an hour or two away. You were going 14 hours away to play. So
I guess that's where it kind of splits on the road. And because I remember I left my first year for Summerlin training camp. I was 15. Mm-hmm. And my first year in the BC Hockey League, I was 15. And I remember my uncle actually managed to get me this tryout, and they all thought it was just going to be good for experience. And my mom and dad thought, oh, that's so nice, Dusty. And then, so I had full intentions of making this team. And right. They thought no chance. And then I literally got a meeting with the coach, and he's like, we'd like you to stay, but we would like you to ask your parents if that's okay, because you'd be going to school here, billets, blah blah blah. And I said, oh yeah, that's good, we're good.
We're good.
And then he's like, well, you should call him. And I said, okay, I will. And so we'll send you back on the weekend. You can pack up and then come back for Monday. I said, sure. So they got me a bus.
Love it.
I got on the bus, and I remember this. I don't have a great memory, but I remember this. I stopped in Princeton on the bus, and I was like, oh shit, I forgot to call my parents. So I called them in Princeton, and I told my mom, I said, hey, Mom, I'm on my way back. And she's like, oh, that's nice, honey. You have a good time? I said, yeah, I made the team. And there was silence. And then all of a sudden my dad gets on the phone. What did you say to your mom? And
no way, she was crying?
Yeah. And I said, I made the team, Dad. And he's like, you what? He goes, what are you talking about? And I said, yeah, I'm on my way home. I got a pack. I got to be back for Monday for school.
That's hilarious.
He was like, we'll talk about this when we get home. And like, I was down. There's no way. I was getting on that bus. It didn't matter.
Yeah, that's what's great about it, right? Just so much drive and a little bit of naivety,
Very much.
Yeah, you got to have that. You have to have that too. It's not like now where you can go on the computer and do everything. You had to make your way there.
Very similar in all professions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, like when it came to me with stand up, I had to make my way to Vancouver and fail, and then make my way to New York and fail.
Right.
But you had to make that I'm gonna get there no matter what. Nothing's gonna stop me. Whereas, which is kind of cool now in a way with entertainment. You can live in your hometown and create.
That part's cool.
Yeah, and I would say with the same with hockey or any sports, you can create these videos that can show you off, which will give you more opportunity to go to different places, more of like maybe not Summerland, like one play where it might have been closer to home, so.
Right. No, I actually last night I was just watching this documentary on Netflix or one of the channels, and it was about the heavy metal days,
Hmm.
and that's my genre. I'm the '80s
Yeah.
metalhead, and it was really cool because it talked about the strip and that whole movement,
Hmm.
and they talked about that exact same thing. They were these old guys that were in bands like Striper and
Right. Right.
Maiden, all these bands, and they were saying how nowadays you can just float out all your stuff right from right where you are. And he goes,
Hmm.
back when he was growing up, you literally had to get on a bus, pull whatever money you had left and
Right.
get to LA or wherever, and literally club it night after night after night on a shoestring,
On a shoestring, but which I call failure, but it isn't failure. Is like it's just like
right.
being broke and just like I when I got to New York, I was living on $25 a day. Like,
No shit.
I was paying $14 a night to stay in a youth hostel. I was making $25, and I had $11 for the rest of my day, and
Wow.
I was completely illegal. And and the club owner had seen me someplace and was like, "Come on down." And then they all paid everybody under the table there. And it was like the days
Wow.
that I didn't work, you're like, oh, you had to save for those days. So I had
Wow.
I had $700 Canadian when I went to New York, which transferred to 450 American or something like that at that time. So
Wow.
yeah,
That's a great story, man. That's so
you know.
cool. And uh, what made you decide to leave and go to LA? Was it the scene better there, or what was it?
No, a little bit. I love New York. It's so good and so bad at the same time. But I would just I'd be doing all these trips to. I was starting to do commercials and stuff, and I was ending up in LA, and it was just always the same weather. It
Hmm.
was always the same weather. And I go back to New York, it was either hot, or extremely hot, freezing, raining. And I come to LA and it was like 79 to 81. It's sunny
Yeah.
out. I'm like, I'm a West Coast kid, so even though I didn't grow up in Vancouver, I grew up close to the ocean, and
Right.
I in the mountains, and I feel like I'm more of a West Coast kid. So one day I just said to my agents, I said, can I live in LA? And they said, you can live wherever you want, bro. And I said, okay, I'm gonna move
Oh,
to LA. So and then I moved here, and it was weird because LA was such a different stand-up scene. Like in New York, I was doing 3 or 4 sets every night, between 5 and 7 sets a night on the weekend. So, and then I get to LA and there's like 3 clubs, and it was these guys that were on TV and doing their
right.
sitcoms and stuff, and then me coming in, I do commercials and I've been on Conan O'Brien, blah blah blah, and they're like, yeah, back of the bus. So so I had to grind again. So it was one of those grind. It's funny though. Uh, Hockey's fit in for me every time. Like, so when I lived in New York, when I first got to New York, I started. There was a manager there who didn't manage me, but he played hockey, and he asked me, "Hey, I heard you're from Canada. Can you play hockey?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "You want to play on our team?" I was like, "All right." So I played on their team a little bit, but
Oh,
I ended up coaching in at Skyrink. I don't know if you which is now Chelsea Piers.
okay.
Skyrink used to be on top of like this building, and then they moved it to Chelsea Piers after they redid Chelsea Piers, and I ended up coaching there and playing hockey. I played in a police, fire, and actor league. It was it was
Please say that again.
a police, fire, and actor league. So it was a one actor team, and that was
Okay.
me and my buddy, and was a couple other actors, Tim Robbins, and all these. There was all these idiots, and then there was an NYPD team. There was a New York Fire Department, 2 teams, and then a Secret Service team, a CIA team, and an FBI team, and we all played in the same league.
No way.
And we'd play and it was because everybody had their days. A lot of the people had their days free, so we play like at noon on Tuesday and Thursday or something like that. It was really cool. It was
That
really cool,
is.
and it actually got me one of my first movie roles. Because I'd never said what I did, even though I was on this actor team, and Tim Robbins found out that I was a comedian. So he's like, "Hey, will you come on?" They sent me will you come audition for this movie called The Cradle Will Rock?
Right.
It's about the government theaters and communism during I think the 40s or whatever it is. And I was like, yeah, sure. So I went in and read, and he gave me a part. And as I got to hang out with Bill Murray and
No
his
way.
mom, and it got me into the union and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. But I never said to him, "Hey, I'm an actor" or anything. I just always just like I just had fun with him. So he just kind of like, all right, yeah, it wasn't ever. That's how my modus operandi was. I was never too pushy. So
Right.
yeah.
But as far as that connection between the comedians and the actors and stuff, do do they cross over a lot as far
Uh,
as your
how do you mean?
friends and like networking and or
Yeah,
totally
yeah,
separate?
yeah. No, I think a lot of us, it's weird. A lot of us, I think, we are friends, but as your career grows, you grow away from each other. Like you really, like some guys are really tight, and
Mm,
they're still tight, but and they started out together. Like everybody I started out together with in Vancouver is basically I'm not in touch with them. They're not doing stand up. They live in Europe. There's a couple in America that I still keep in touch with, but they're not in LA. We're not, we're
mm,
not hanging. So I don't really consider that I have a close, like knit from the people that I started with. Right. So,
right.
but I have a lot of friends and a lot of people that I respect and stuff. But as you grow, like we all start out, we're on the same level, and we're just trying to get on stage at the same time. Now you're getting to middling or featuring for somebody, so I go with this guy and you go with that guy, right?
Right.
And now and then one of you becomes a headliner, so that person that becomes a headliner takes his buddy on the road with him, right?
Mm.
Now you're both headliners after the one guy after the headliner doesn't want to follow the guy that becomes better, right? So now you're both headliners and you split up again. So it's just kind of like this, meh, 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 and you just kind of split up. But
Right.
but we've had, I try to keep in touch with guys, the guys that enjoy hockey. I'm closer with.
Right.
I get a lot of questions about hockey and stuff like that, and it's yeah, it's pretty cool. And then we've had a couple like that police fire league. We had that, and then we had a Monday night skate here in LA for quite a while. There was a bunch of comedians, and it was guys that couldn't skate at all, like that would come out. Vince Vaughn came out and skated with us a couple times, and he had to hang on to the boards and stuff. So it was pretty cool.
And he's a
I'd
big
love to.
hockey fan, eh?
He's a big hockey. I'd like to start it up again because guys love the game, and they love the game even more once they've played and figured out, oh, it's a little tougher than it looks, like
Right.
it's,
Well, you appreciate it more, right?
yeah, you appreciate it more, and yeah, no, yeah, it's good. So yeah, it's like anything. If it's done well, it looks easy, right?
Right. Right.
So yeah.
Well, back to your profession, and actually you in particular. I wanted to ask you, and I've always wondered whenever I watched you, uh, and I've seen a ton of comedians, and
Bragger.
but but your style, your version of comedy is so different.
It's
Now, has it always been the same? And for the people, the listeners, the people that don't know, Ian's how can I even explain? He uses the crowd, and when I mean uses,
I use
uses or abuses, and most of it. I don't know what percentage you use, but it seems like 75 or more percent is just off the cuff, and whatever
yeah.
happens, the back and forth, and then you have a few standard jokes you put in the middle. Has it always been like that for you?
Pretty well. When I first started out, I was very deadpan and very one-liner. Stephen Wright was huge when I first started, so
Oh
a
yeah,
lot
I
of guys were
remember.
doing that. And I used to hang out with a guy named Mitch Hedberg. We had very much the same style, and he used to come up to Vancouver, and we used to go and do these sets all around town and hang out. And we hung out because we both had long hair. We liked heavy metal music, and we had the same style. So we felt like neither of us, one of us wasn't juggling in front of the other to cause havoc for the guy behind him, because
Right.
we didn't. But I was already starting to talk to the crowd. Like I'd make stuff up, you know, when they'd say things to me. So I never felt it was a speech. I always felt like it was a conversation.
Right.
What I do. And that's basically, to this day, it's just grown. It's grown into this monster of a thing. But
Oh, it's a monster. All right.
it's a monster. I used to get fired every so often because headliners wouldn't, he just raps the crowd. He just gets the crowd going. They get crazy. They think they can talk to me after he's been on. So yeah,
Yeah. And I'll explain. I'll go back to the first time that I went to see you, and this will kind of tie into how we know each other. My buddy Corey Hirsch, who we played against each other, right? We knew each other since junior. And I can't remember, like I told you, I have a bad memory, but I remember Hershey telling me, yeah, my friend of mine is in town. You got to go check him out. I don't know where it would have been, at Yuck Yucks or somewhere in Vancouver.
It was I think it was called the Comedy Mix by that time, but it was on Davey and what's that? Not Burrard. It's like around that area, Davey.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, right next to the hospital in a big tall building. Yeah, it was
right.
in the basement of that. Yeah.
And he's like, and I said, yeah, okay, that sounds cool. He goes, no, seriously, you got to go check this out.
Oh, he's awesome.
But he didn't tell me kind of anything about you, really, other than your friends and stuff. And my wife and I went, and I was floored, blown away, actually. And from that's how it all started. And then years later, I'm in LA. I'm working with the Kings, and you're right there.
Yeah. Where were you when you first time you seen me? Where were you working?
Oh, you know what? I can't even remember. It was a while ago.
Yeah, it was. Corey was still in Toronto, I think.
I might have.
That's how far back.
Yeah. So I don't even think I was coaching yet.
Oh, really?
No, I think I just retired and was struggling as a regular human being.
Right.
And hadn't moved over to coaching. But when I got to LA and found out you were actually your home, do you call it your home base?
My home club, yeah. I would say my home club is Hermosa Beach, yeah.
Right. And went, and I don't know, I think I went once on my own first, but then I thought, you know what, this would be awesome for me to start taking the goalies. Mm-hmm. And I remember I told Soupy, and I said, we're going to go to my buddy Ian Bagg, his show. And he's like, oh, great. Then I kind of explained a little bit about you and how you are, and like, oh, you got to hear this, how he does this. And if you're anywhere close to the front, you're fucked. Like,
that's not how it is.
And if you know Soupy, like he's really shy and very keeps things close to himself. And I could tell as the days got closer, he was getting nervous because he started to ask me, like, are they reserving seats for us? And I'm like, oh yeah, probably. Or you just giving us tickets? And he goes, it'll be close to the front. And I'm like, well, maybe, because we'll be like VIP. And he's like, is there any way we could, sit That's further back? And sure enough, when it started, like at first he was really tense, and then I don't remember if it was that show or another show, but you gave a shout out.
Yeah.
And the LA Kings goalie, blah blah blah, and he was totally freaked out. He thought, oh no, this is it. We're
coming down.
We're getting roasted.
It's funny. It's funny that I first of all, when I invite people, I try not to put them in the ring. And the ring is where where my eyesight stops, like where something's going to happen. But I will talk all the way to the back of the room. Like if you engage me, I will talk you to the back of the room. And every so often I'll ask, hey, back there, and then hopefully somebody will talk to me. I just kind of, so I don't ever know what makes me talk to somebody, but there's just something happens and I end up talking to them. And I always, if somebody feels uncomfortable, I stop. Like I can, like if I can tell they're having anxiety. Yeah, I can read it. But if they're having anxiety and they turn into a dick, I go even further. Like, because I'm just like, no, man, you came here. Like, you came here. And I say it in my show, like, you came here. I didn't break in your house and start doing this. Like, you came to my house. Don't treat my house like shit. You know what I mean? Because I want people to have fun. That's, I'm your escape. Right. The world has so much going on, and it's just as big as escape for me as it is for you. So when we're having fun, we're having fun. And I don't think I take nothing. Nothing is offside. I really don't. I don't believe, that you shouldn't joke about that. You shouldn't. Right. My job as a comedian is to make you laugh at something that you never thought you'd laugh at. You know what I mean? Whether it doesn't matter what it is. I got it. Like, it's just like you can be like, oh God, I shouldn't have laughed about that. But he did make me laugh. That I love that. But when people get angry, I'm like, no, you're not allowed to get angry because it was funny. I can tell by the 99% of the room laughing that was hilarious. So you can't say it's not funny. So
you know what? When the first couple of shows, when I would leave the show, I had this tension. It was like I felt, I got out of the show. It was like, wow, that was intense, man. Like, usually you go to a show, you're laughing your head off and you got the giggles and it's just funny.
Right.
With your show, it's hilarious, but the whole time you're kind of on the edge of your seat, getting all uncomfortable because that person's just taking it.
That's so funny. There's two things that I hear that make me laugh. And one thing makes me really happy is I like when friends bring friends and they say, I enjoy watching their reaction to what you do. So I don't even pay attention. I'm busy laughing at my friend laughing at you. Right. So that it's a huge ego boost. And the other thing that makes me laugh is somebody will say, I don't like going to stand-up comedian. I get really nervous for that person that's on stage. Like they're terrified. They've obviously seen stand-up at some point where somebody didn't do well. Yeah. And they cannot handle seeing that train wreck, and they think everybody's going to be like that.
I'm actually similar in that sense. Like whenever I watch like Idol or those types of shows where they're put on in front of people and they fucking bomb, I have to leave the room. When I'm watching TV with the family or whatever, and I see them bombing, to me that is brutal.
It is brutal because it's kind of a dick move, that whole show, because at the end of the show, it's, we got the best of the best. But they knew who the best of the best was before. Right. But their whole thing is to destroy people. You know what I mean? Like they spend so much time on these guys that are just horrible. You're just like, no. That's why I enjoy The Voice, because they don't put anybody on there that's horrible. Right. But they might not do well that night, but you still go, that person was really good and they didn't get picked. But
Totally. When The Voice came on, it was like, okay, this one's more for me, because the other one, it was like constant. Every other one, actually, I would say more than every so often you'd have a champion. The rest of them sucked balls. And
I think that's from you, playing music and having to go to open mics and seeing that it's not comfortable when you're there and there you're just like, like you're wondering where their brains are. You're like, you did, because that was great, and you're like, no, that was not great at all. There was a guy when I started in Vancouver that had been doing open mic nights for 10 years, and I was just like, dude, and he was horrible. It was horrible.
Was it like therapeutic for him or something?
I don't know. I never, at that point, I was just like, I was young. I can't believe how much I'm saying. Like, I was young and really driven, and he was just in the way. You know what I mean? So, but now I probably would have done a little bit more research. Like, or do you have a job that you go to? Does this let you escape? Because I go to this place in Minneapolis, and there's this kid that is just, he's awfully on the spectrum, but he makes me laugh, but the crowd is just like, what's going on, and he's basically been doing it for years. But I put him on my show when I like give him a Thursday night, come up and do 10 minutes, let him do 10 minutes. Right. And he just makes me laugh, and I love stand-up, and the fact that I get to go on stage just makes my day. So, I'm at that point where I'm like, when somebody it makes somebody's day. It makes me happy, you know, rather than the guy that has the day job that is actually funny at work and is able to be funny on stage, but doesn't respect what the other people do, you know?
Right, right. Well, yeah, when you have in any profession, same in hockey with you go on the ice in the off season, and every so often you'd have someone out there that doesn't quite make the grade.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're younger, you're
Just
like,
in the way.
what the fuck are you doing on here?
Yeah.
And you're a lot less sympathetic, understanding to all the other things outside what could be built
Mm-hmm.
around this and why he's here. And when you're a young kid and full of piss of vinegar, I
Yeah.
agree. It's the same thing. You don't have that understanding or even want to understand. it's
It's hard to have empathy when you're really driven, you know. That's something you learn as you go along. Like
right.
there's very, you know, my dad didn't understand me wanting to be a comedian, so he didn't teach me, be empathetic to people that are around you and blah blah blah. My dad was a mechanic. You get in there, you do your work, you come home, and it's not. If you're not good at being a mechanic, things go off the edge of so you get fired. It wasn't. Nobody went into to escape from the world and be a mechanic.
Right.
So it was very, and obviously your dad was, your parents were the same. Like, well, he's going away to play hockey. What, they didn't get, that thing. So we have to learn, and I think younger guys learn from us, to get that empathy.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of what I do, right? With
Right.
but a lot of my coaching and stuff was based around how all the shitty stuff I did and learning about it and finally coming around and understanding
Right.
about all the shit I did, right? And some people never come around. Some people are still angry about their lives and that they didn't get this or that or whatever. But if you manage to figure it out, you become more like you said, bring that guy on your show. And like,
Right.
would you have done that when you're 22?
Nah, I wouldn't have. Nah, you wouldn't have. He's just, they're in the way. They're in the way. Yeah. And for me coming from Terrace to Vancouver to New York to LA for a long time, the people that were in the way made me very mad. Like, because I'm just like, you grew up in LA and you suck and you've got money and you just get to go on stage because you're just able to hang out. I have to go out and make money to survive, to be in LA. You know what I mean? You are in my way. You are nowhere near funny enough to be around me. Like that kind of, it took me a while. And I don't know if it was, I got to a point financially where it didn't bother me, but anymore, like it relaxed me. But for a long time, it was people that were in the way annoyed me.
It's weird, oddly weird how similar most professions can be. Like you get, at the beginning, you're like you said, angry and really just trying to steamroll your way through.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually kind of fuels you. And then you get kind of to a certain point and it's you're more focused on just doing a good job. And then at the end,
right,
you're really, really trying to help people.
Yeah. I don't feel like I'm at the end, but I just feel like I don't feel I'm done, Dusty. Oh my God. Come on, Eames. Go down to the bus like this. Come on, let me live for a little bit longer. It's weird, it's just, I think that's where coaches like you come into play, though, to help a guy learn that earlier than later. Because I remember you telling me about you brought him down and Jack to the and you told me, a year or two ago he wouldn't have been able to do this during the season.
Right.
Like, you helped a guy escape his mind, and that's the fences that we put up are what keeps us from getting to
It's actually, when you watch, it's not hockey. It's just comedy. It's like in everybody's lives and whatever they do. You're your own fucking worst enemy at times.
You're your own worst enemy. And I think for me, the more I do things, the funnier I am. And I think that's with every career
Mm.
You know, it's amazing what I can take away from watching a hockey game to let me have fun on stage. And I think guys going to, you know, I've heard interviews before where they go see a musician and they see that guy's work ethic and they don't realize that he has to have work ethic to be that musician. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Learning things, just learning things, you know,
Yeah.
from
The
other. And if you put fences up, oh, I can't do that because we're playing hockey right now. That'll, you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you I was going to ask you, and I never asked you because I don't know, we just always talked about other stuff, but hockey wise, I see you're wearing a nice hat.
Oh,
Okay, so
yes.
so and I've also seen you chumming around with the San Jose boys. Now, you can honestly answer me now because
Yeah.
I don't work for the Kings anymore.
Yeah.
But you're in Hermosa at that was your home club, but you're hanging with San Jose boys. Then I see you're doing stuff there, and where is it? Where do your loyalties lie?
If it came down to it, where they said you could only cheer for one team,
Right.
it would be the Vancouver Canucks. That's
Oh,
the Canucks are my team. When I was a kid, we had the calendar up on the wall.
right.
I wanted to be Dennis Kearns when I was growing up. So, which is funny because one night I'm in Minnesota and I'm doing a show and this guy comes up to me and goes, "Hey man, you're from Canada?" And I go, "Yeah, yeah." And he goes, "So am I. My name's Dennis Kearns." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, I used to be you all the time when we were playing street hockey. This is bizarre. He was coaching. I can't remember where he was coaching, but they were in Minnesota for the night, and they had the night off, and they came to see the comedy show. And I was just like, this is so bizarre. So, but yeah, I was a Canucks fan all the way through. I went through every jersey. I thought every year was going to be next year. When they was it 82 when they went to the finals. A couple of them
With the
came up.
Islanders.
Yeah, with the Islanders, a couple of them came up that summer and went fishing in Terrace, and they did a signing, and I stood in line with the whole town. We all stood in line to get Vancouver Canucks autographs, you know, two of them, and yeah, Canucks. But I love the game. Like the game has helped me through, you know, downtimes with the coaching. You know, I did stuff like I've done stuff with the game that's like, I've done Christmas parties for a lot of the teams. When the Staples Center opened, a friend of mine worked there, and they said, "Hey, I know you love hockey. Would you?" And you know, so this is when I was like just started when I was just getting to LA, and I told you I was grinding through.
Right.
And they said, "Would you want to be an usher and just watch the games?" And I was like, I don't know what that is, but it sounds fun. So I went there. Right? And I was an usher for exactly one game. When they told me, they said, they gave everybody where they had to be.
Yeah.
They put me at a door, like one of the doors going to upstairs. So like I'm at a door outside of the building. I'm like, "Hey, I can't see the game." And they're like, "Yeah, you have to, you're here to work." And I'm like, "No, I'm not."
One game.
One game, and they're like, "Well, you'll work where we work." And I go, "Nah, that's not happening. I quit." And I had gotten a ride with a guy, and I watched the game and waited for him to get a ride home. So that lasted one day, and then that same year, a friend of mine was the assistant for the president of Fox, and Fox was, I think, had hockey at that time. Whatever they had their suite, and he didn't like hockey at all. So I got the suite of Fox's suite for every game, and I just take 10 or 12 people with me, and we'd sit in the suite. I was good, like I took kids and their families that I was coaching and stuff. I took other comedians and just, you know, sit there. So yeah.
So Canucks, actually, funny thing with the Canucks is after I retired, I was, you know, itching to just be around the guys again, kind of thing. So
Right.
I ended up joining the Canuck alumni.
Right.
And I knew a bunch of people. I never played with the Canucks. I went to their camp in '91, but I never played with the Canucks. So I wasn't an actual alumni, but I was part of the alumni. So for years I skated with them on Wednesdays. And it was funny because I remember the first couple times I went out, there were a lot of old dudes, and I had just retired, and I was playing forward though, so I wouldn't.
Yeah.
myself, Billy Ranford, Kirk McLean, none of us played in net.
That's
We all
awesome.
played forward. But there were guys like Orland,
Uh-huh.
Kurtenbach, and Odlison, and all these guys that I grew up. Uh, my first introduction to hockey through my father, and were these guys,
That's
and
awesome.
they're on the ice. And I remember one time I took a face off, and Orland pushed aside somebody. I think it was Cliff Ronning. He pushed him aside. He said, "I'm taking it." And he's like an old man, but he's this
Just
beast.
massive.
And he put his stick down, and he just looked at me, and right when they dropped the puck, he smashed my stick right out of my hands. And he was joking, but I was like, this guy's 80 years old.
You're like, what the fuck's going on?
You could tell he was. I can imagine when he played.
What a beast he was.
Yeah, like all around me, he's like good hockey player, but like heavy. But yeah, it was a lot of fun those years. There was a bunch of guys that had been around for like a long time. So you had your Cliff Ronings and stuff like that, but you also had these older guys that it was pretty neat, because that's what I grew up around, right?
Right. I'm a Canucks fan. So the way I know everybody, there was a comedy festival in Vancouver, and in 2010 when the Olympics were.
Yep.
And 2008 was when the lockout was. When was the lockout?
I think it was just before that. Yeah.
Yeah. So for some reason they put together a celebrity hockey player thing. And it played 3 games, two in Vancouver, one in Vancouver and 2 in Whistler, or I can't remember how it worked. So, and it was during the lockout. So it was big names like Burke. It was Burke was running it.
Okay,
Brian Burke. So,
yeah.
And I got to play in that.
Cool.
So I got to know, some of the players. We had a good time, but I got to know the trainers more, because the trainers weren't working. So, Berkey brought them in to get them some money in their pockets, is basically, so,
right.
So I got to know, I became really tight with Jamie Hendricks. I don't know if you remember Jamie.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he used to work there, and Pat O'Neill and those guys, and Red was still there, and I got to know those guys. And I was in Vegas a couple years later, and there was an equipment thing there, and although Hendricks and O'Neill were there, and Hendricks brought in like 5 other guys from around the league to see my show. And I became friends with all these guys. Two boys were from LA, were there, and I became tight with them because I'm just down the street, right? So,
right.
So I hang out with Dana all the time, So we see each other all the time. I became closest with him. Up in San Jose was those guys were there.
Yeah.
Winnipeg was at the show. I became tight with all these trainers up there, and then I make sure I take care of them. Because a lot of people are like, I just want to meet the the players. I'm like, well, the players come, players go. Who cares about them?
Right.
The trainers take it. I remember getting to drink from the Stanley Cup. Like, there's no way. How am I drinking Orange Crush and vodka out of the Stanley Cup? It's because I got invited to the parties, because the kind of thing like that. So I love the game, and I love the people that work in the game. I think the people that work in the game are, a class act, and just great.
Those guys work hard, man.
Yeah, they work hard, and they love it, and they make those guys on the ice shine.
Oh, for sure.
So
sure.
Yeah.
Dana's a huge fan of yours.
Dana's great. Yeah. So he brings so many people down there, and all the guys come down. He brought in the new regime just before everything went down, and I've become friends with Marco Sturm out of it. He loves to come out to the shows, and he's always just got a huge smile on his face, which is makes me happy. So, and then I got to know DeBoer and Steve Spott up in San Jose.
Right.
That's how I got to know them. And then when the Las Vegas team started, after the first year, my buddy moved there and took over a bunch of their merchandise. He was actually from the music world, and he ended up working in there. and he brought some people out to a show, and they worked for the Knights, and they're like, hey, would you want to come out to this? We're doing this auditions for cheerleaders and ice cleaning. And would you come out and be one of the judges? And I'm like, nope, but I'll make a video for you where I go undercover boss and pretend I'm starting and I don't know how to skate, and I learned how to skate all in one day. And they're like, okay, so I did that, and they played that for a video all in their building for a while. So
That's so cool. That they know. Hey, man, they do it right there. Oof.
that is a yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty good when because I do go into a lot of buildings around the league, and I'm just
Right.
like, yeah. You got to make it entertainment. Their game is like nothing else, but there's parts where the game isn't happening.
Right.
Make people show up and want to be a party. No, they don't have to get drunk in the parking lot like it's an NFL game, but then once they get inside,
Right.
So
yeah, I know. I thought it was, and that was early, like when I was still with LA, and they joined, and the preseason, even just the preseason game, I was like, holy fuck. This is crazy. I knew it was going to be big. I didn't know how good they were going to be, but I knew.
Yeah,
they did
I think
right.
that's the way you do it when you bring a team into a league, is make them good so the town gets behind them too.
Sure.
But yeah,
for sure. They do it the other way. Look at all the other teams. They're just scrimping and struggling. I really hope Seattle follows suit and does the same thing. And actually, 8 months ago, I would have thought this was not a chance, and the timing would have been off. But now, since I'm not working, and they're coming around the corner, that would be one place I'd come back to, and that would be sick.
That'd be good.
I hope they do well there.
I hope they do well there too. And I don't know whether they push it for a year or what they do to help them.
Yeah,
they might have to push it.
Tough time to be entering in right now, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind
of funny because we say that I seen a restaurant open up down the street, and I'm like, what? Like, you see something open right now, you're like, what the?
Like just opening?
Yeah, just opening. Like, I'm like, what? I don't know if you guys. I hope we're gonna do a takeout.
That's a skit in itself, and that's an skit. That owner's going, yeah, you know what? You know what I was thinking? I think it'd be great to open a restaurant right now.
We can get rent so cheap right now. Yeah. Imagine being at the bottom of an office building and opening up. This is going to be fantastic. Oh, everybody's working from home? Oh. It's tough times. It's tough times, but it may sound harsh after we talked about being empathetic. We kind of needed a purge as far as businesses, you needed to, some were just open just to be open. Like, you gotta find that passion again to why you want a business that's open. And I think, and I feel horrible for anybody that's lost their life savings and work, but there's some people you're just like, oh, they're just getting out now because it's the easiest time for them to say, we're shutting her down.
I will say this, it does make people step up their game and think about things a lot more. Like, for anybody, myself, everybody that is out of work or looking for, in the past, when you leave for myself in particular, my job, my profession, you leave a job, you get your agent, look and find the other job, and you go to that one, and you're not really thinking. Now, with all that's going on, like, you got to start, like, I'm thinking, generally speaking, about, okay, what am I going to do if this doesn't happen and this doesn't happen? I need to get a fucking job. I need to live, and I need to.
I was with you. Yeah, I remember I called up a friend and said, "Do you have an in at Costco? I think I might have to get a job there." Like, it was because, dude, 8 months of just seeing your bank account go boom, 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 just go down, like, when nothing's coming in, like nothing.
Yeah, no, some people, though, it scares me, because some people, battle with depression and things that they can't control, and turn it on into, okay, think mode, and like, how can I, try to create out of nothing. Some people have that, and that's great. And those people probably still get through and thrive. It's the other people that I'm scared for, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of people like that, that.
Don't be resistant to change. Like I've always, I've always lived under, I don't know where I got it, but a long time ago, those most resistant to change are the first to die. So you can't say no. You can't. You can say, let me, because when this all first started, people would start, I'm going to do shows on Zoom. I'm going to invite people. I'm like, that's not stand up, but I'll do it, but let's not call it stand up. Okay. Because stand up is a crowd. And then perverts started just joining these things and just showing their balls off. It was very bizarre. It was just so bizarre as shit. I was at a show, and I was doing a Zoom show. This one of my friends set up, and he put out the code to everybody. And
No way.
And somebody just put it on Facebook and just sent it out, and it just went everywhere. And
Just went sideways.
Yeah, I just sideways. It's I just as it's about to start, I'm like, hey, there's a dude just jacking me off there. So, and he's like, oh my god. And then there's another guy just doing weird stuff, and then some guy with a swastika, and you're just like, oh god, you screwed up, my friend. So
your video just went off.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right.
Sorry, I had to plug in.
That's that is funny. That's comedy in itself, though.
Yeah, it's comedy in itself. I just sat there. I was, because you can see people, and I was just like, let's just watch people's eyes as they find them. You see people. You just see them click out of the room as soon as they see them.
Oh, that's hilarious, man. Like, that's legit. That happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So,
wow. I guess when you open
for the El Segundo Comedy Festival, they decided they were going to do some virtual shows. And on their first night, they decided they would put it out to everybody. And then after that, they're like, oh, these are all going to be private.
Yeah. Ouch. That's got to be, for your profession, that has to be a challenge to try to think outside the box and make it funny, because your comedy is so interactive. And
it's funny. I've done some. I do some here and there, and it's funny because I just basically get to come into your house and chirp what's on your wall. What I do, just make fun of people's walls. I like it when one person had just like one picture up. I'm like, huh.
You're around, the bag has come around, if you will.
Yeah.
It's gotten, because when I went on it, it was really early, and you were having trouble with the audio and different things.
Around the bag started with, it was an idea I had a couple years ago, and I was just like, what can we do with, and it was just for other comics. Like, I just get 3 other comics on and just do pop culture with them in a game show form. And that way we could just kind of give ourselves a panel show to advertise what we're doing that week, like build it up, right? But I could never figure out, all right, well, what kind of platform do I use to do this? And then all of a sudden everything stops, and I'm like, well, I guess this is a good time to investigate. Right. So my friend told me about this one Be Live or something. We started out, and it turned out to be a Russian thing, so I'm sure we all got hacked. So we started with that, and it was good. And then I moved on to the StreamYard, and it got better. And it's moved on to microphones and cameras and soundboards. And lights. And now I got an IT guy came. He's like, I really like this. I want this to work. So it's not huge. It's only about 2,000 people we get, watching a week. We get on all our platforms. So, it's not huge yet, but I've just started, this is the next thing, is I've started concentrating on my social media, my YouTube, getting people to follow my YouTube, and telling people about it, because I'm much of the way my mind works. Get the product good before you get the people, because a lot of people get the people before the product.
Right.
So
well, no, that's great. That's a good way to look at it, I think. Work on on the actual craft, and then unleash it as
And
opposed to.
I was doing them every day. I turned and burned 57 of them in like 3 or 4 months. And then I was just like, I can't do this. I have to. So I moved it to one a week, but it was great that I did so many to
Right.
learn,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, no,
I
I
think,
just I watched a couple lately that I hadn't watched for a while because I was kind of because I would see them on Facebook, right? And
right.
I hadn't been on Facebook for a while,
I
and
hate Facebook.
yeah, and anyways, I watched. I was like, holy shit,
This is different.
what? I got the fucking B show.
It's funny. I'm like, I need to invite some people back and let them know what's going on. And we've started, I'm working with a couple guys. We take a clip out and we animate it, and he animates it. And
Oh yeah,
yeah, so it's kind of cool. And yeah, I think it's a fun thing. And the thing that kept me going, was everybody that was on it was like, I had so much fun. Like I escaped. You didn't ask anything too serious. I don't know. That's a big thing. Like, how do you get those questions? And it's just it's three forms. So in the first one, it's just random questions from my brain. And the second group, it's they have to pick it. They have to pick between two things, and then we discuss why they picked it. But they seem to melt down, and when I give them two things to pick from, they're like, "Why would you ask me that?" I'm like, "I don't read anything into it." And then the third one, I just get random trivia off the internet, and they just like, and then one of them becomes my best friend, my BFF for the week. That's what you win. Yeah, you win. You become my BFF.
The first one, if people know you well, would I think scare them the most.
Right.
From your brain. There's no precursor. There's no. You don't know where that's going.
No, we seem to have. There's a couple of yield signs that have been definitely have been blown through.
Do you keep it fairly G or rated? Or
no. I just the one thing I've learned lately, and this is probably I get fired up at people that say you got to be G-rated, or that you can't do this, some blah blah, it's killed comedy, it's people need safe spaces, all that. And I'm just like, no, it's our job, right? It's our job to find the people that want to listen to us. And it doesn't matter how G-rated I am or clean I am, I always get complaints. Like, there's always a complaint. So just do it. You just do it, because they're going to complain anyways.
Right.
So why not let myself laugh and then have them complain? Because there's nothing worse than, when you edit something and then there's, oh, that's filthy. Oh. And I'm like, holy crap. What's that filthy? Because if you heard what I really wanted to say. So
I guess you got to just do what feels right. And the people that do like you, that's who you focus on. I would guess. No,
you build your community, right? That's
right.
what that's. I know it's a saying from the whole, when you read anything about doing YouTube or podcasts, you build a community. But at the end of the day, you really do. And community just means you're building your fans. You build your fans that have the same like-mindedness as you. And it doesn't mean that it's everything, but it's, for the most part, that they have your sensibilities. So.
Right. Well, the whole point that I decided to do this podcast was simply, I had the idea for a while, but like you said, with the whole COVID thing, it kind of made your brain go into do mode and kind of got me to do this. But the whole reason was I just wanted to do something that kind of interested me. And that all these conversations that I've had with my buddies, people I know, interesting people, different really cool things and shit, I thought that would actually probably translate well on audio and a podcast. And the ones that don't like it don't have to fucking listen to it.
Right.
And the ones that do, though, it's like a good outlet, a good release, because I listen to them all the time now on my walks and runs. And sometimes the topic goes a little bit off for me, and that's okay. but when it's in your kind of wheelhouse, your mind. I think it's a great thing. I thought
Yeah.
it's kind of weird how podcasts have taken speaking into a mic is so old school, but it's kind of come full circle and really make people more interactive in that sense. I thought,
Yeah, and I think it gives us kind of gives you your own radio station you can build. Like I can have yours. I like it. So if I want to listen to yours, I want to hear about a guy that's played hockey and all the people that he's met along his journey, which is basically how you describe yours, right?
Right.
So, well, it's not just about hockey, but it's people that you've met on your journey because of hockey, right?
Right.
I love the I think the funniest podcast out there is Spitting Chickless. I love a guy that, the two guys that have played in the NHL, one guy that, admits that he partied too hard, and one guy that comes from a silver spoon. If you listen to him, they got a silver spoon, and then the guy that just loves hockey, that just and they all smoke pot together. It's just, it just makes me laugh, and they give you an honest opinion about the sport, and life. They give you their opinion, and they all come from different backgrounds, and I think it's so great. And then I listen to a YouTube podcast, like there's about learning YouTube, and I flick through some, but I love hearing how people started with nothing and built it into something. And the things that you need to pay attention to, and the things that you will overpay attention to that really mean nothing. And like the words, and there's when you go onto YouTube and you're trying to do things, there's just, when you're trying to edit, you're just like, oh, it's overwhelming. I'm not like, what does this mean? So this YouTube thing helps me out and learns. And then I like a serious hockey talk, and when I listen to 31 Thoughts with Elliot Friedman, I like that.
Yeah, no, he's good. He's very good.
Yeah.
One of the podcasts, speaking of, we just mentioned that. Hang on, let me get my notes. Hey, by the way, this is the most prep, and I didn't do much, but most prep I probably did since I was in grade 8.
Nice.
My son, Jonah, wanted to know your mom's house.
Your mom's house, yeah.
It's his favorite podcast.
I'd love to know how he found them. Let me know how he found them.
Okay, I'll ask him for sure. But Jonah, he's like, I'll never forget when he came up, and Jonah's really chill, but he was like all excited. He's like, who was on your mom's house? And I'm like, first of all, what the fuck is your mom's house? I didn't know.
Are you bringing up my mom?
He's like, it's only my favorite podcast. I'm like, okay. He goes, Ian Bagg was on it. I'm like, no way, it's cool. He goes, no, seriously, Ian Bagg was on. This is like the best podcast out there. And he was now it was different. I knew before he knew I knew you and stuff, but he wasn't. You weren't an elite person.
That's funny. I was just a dude you knew.
Yeah. Now you went up to another status for him, and he was just stoked. And he said, here, look here. He said when he watched it, he'd never heard those. Is it two guys?
It's a guy. It's a married couple. It's Tom Segura and Christina Pazynski. Yeah.
Okay. He said that he'd never heard them laugh so hard.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
And he listens to it all the time.
It's such a dick move to say, but I don't even listen to it.
Oh no!
But it's because they're my friends, and also I can't keep up because they got so much going on. Like we talk about friends that we all hung out, and you go one way and they go the other way. That's them. Like they're like, we were in South Africa together for a month, and we were like tight as could be, and then we come back, we're tight as can be, and then we all start going away. We all start going on and do our thing. Now I'm traveling all the time. They're traveling. They end up, they start this podcast. I do one of the first ones from their garage, and then I keep getting messages all the time. Why don't you ever go on your mom's house? I'm like, fuck, I'm one of the first guests, you fucking dicks. and then it blows up huge, and things are just like rolling for them, and I'm grinding, and they're rolling. So and I just and I get clips here and there, but I was never sitting down and listening to it. And also they've got so many different they've got a couple different podcasts. I didn't know which one I was supposed to listen to.
Oh, they have more than one?
Yeah, they got two bears, and then Christina's got one with Dr. Drew, you know, and like that. Yeah, like
Oh,
they've
really?
got, yeah, they're you know, and they're the nicest people. They're so nice, and they, you know, they've had a couple kids over the years, and they're just, you know, it couldn't happen to a nicer couple, you know, like they're just,
cool.
they make me, and they're so goofy. It's their relationship for me is like just, it's hanging out with your best friend when you're a teenager. It's like when I watch them, they just seem like best friends, like two dudes hanging out. Except for one of them's got sweet tits. I have so much fun hanging with them, you know. I remember, so I don't know how it happened, but I lost my shoes I had to go to the mall as soon as we got to South Africa because I had to get shoes. I was checked into the hotel with no shoes, and
How the hell?
And Christy's like, Ian, you've got no shoes on, and I'm like, it's Africa.
Ouch.
I'm not the only one, you know. We had so much fun there. We were it was so stupid. It was good.
You guys just decided to go there, or did you have shows?
Oh no,
there?
we did a festival. We were there for the Nando's Chicken Festival, and we were there for a month. Yeah, it was so much fun. It's just us hanging out, and then there was a couple of goofy people on the show, and we bonded. We had a great time. Yeah, cool. I did that one with them, and then I did another one a couple years earlier, and I did that one with Trevor Noah. Oh, okay. And you know, it's another thing of like, you know, I met Trevor and I was just like, oh, this kid's gonna be huge. Like, he was already a star in South Africa. He was on billboards all over there. And I'm just like, this dude's gonna be, you know, like, he's a good looking guy. He's funny. I'm watching him, and he's blowing up, and the girls are just, you know, lusting for him, and the guys want to hang out with him, right? Which is always the way a star is, right?
Right.
So, and I just say, you know, you're gonna be huge. Just pick wisely who you work with, because they're all going to come running. And he's like, okay. And then when he got over here, he couldn't work. I can't remember what happened, but he couldn't work. So he just come hang with me on the road. He'd just go and do shows, like open for me and stuff like that. And I was like, I'm just like, shouldn't I be on the Daily Show too? Shouldn't I be a correspondent, you motherfucker? But you know, it's just one of those things where you're just like, it's so much fun hanging. The people that, when you see people that you really enjoy hanging with and that you know are good people do well, it's really a good feeling. So, and Christina and Tom are just so fantastically funny and stupid and just offside, and I love it. Yeah, and they make me feel like I can say anything on their show, and right. They'll have fun. Where, you know, others you can tell that they're not. You're not supposed to be the funny one, you know, that you've been on. And I won't say it's any. So.
Well, I gotta check that out, because Jonah swears by it. He said it's hilarious.
I'd love to know how he found them. Like, I know they were part of the Rogan crew, I think, for a while. I think they were.
Oh, okay.
So
Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Yeah. He Jonah. I know Jonah listens to him. He actually listens to a bunch of different ones, and he's got a interesting sense of humor. Like, you mentioned the word offside, and like just odd takes. Like, the different types of comedians he listens to and podcasts he listens to are kind of all over the map.
That's cool. Yeah, I don't think you put yourself into one, you know, you go all over the place.
Yeah. No, that's
I try not to be influenced. That's why one of the reasons I don't listen to too many, you know, comedian podcasts, because I don't want to be influenced by other comedians. You know, I don't. So when do you listen to comedian? No, I listen to, you know, hockey podcasts, which is great about Spitting Chicklets, is they're able to make me laugh so hard, and they're not influencing me. You know, I'm never going to do a hockey podcast. You know, I'll be probably on hockey podcasts, but I'm not going to be doing what they do.
Right.
Which is fun, you know.
Yeah. Jumping into someone else's genre can be testy.
Yeah. I want to, yeah. I think the guy RA on that one, he does
Yeah.
a good job of being,
It's
an
excellent.
outsider.
Excellent job. Like
Yeah.
he has an opinion here and there, but he doesn't. When you get that person
Mm-hmm.
that's oversteps his boundaries, like into
Mm-hmm.
the hockey realm,
You
and
mean every other Canadian that didn't make the NHL? Hey man, I could have made it. There just wasn't enough teams.
that's the one nice thing about working when I was in LA is tons of fans, but no one really ever proclaimed that they
Be
knew.
an expert.
Yeah, not I never met anyone anyways. A lot of diehard fans, and they could be like passionate and angry or whatever,
Yeah.
but never stepped over the line into they knew what they were talking about better than say
Yeah.
Rob Blake or whoever. But
Yeah. Which is very Canada.
Canada's different.
Canada, you can't go to if you're in that world and you're at the grocery store, and they're not gonna say, hey, have a good day. They're gonna say, hey, I was thinking about this. It's like,
Yeah.
that you guys should probably do this. I was looking at your power play and I was wondering if you guys thought about shooting.
Well, I have all the gear I wear in work and all and stuff. Got so much LA shit,
Right.
and it happens all the time. Someone will come up and go. First, they'll be like, "Big LA fan, eh?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Why do you have all? It doesn't look like normal stuff." And I'm actually
So Canadian. I noticed you can't get that.
I think they know, but they would try to. So you say, "Oh, I was a coach," and they're like, "Oh, fuck, they're struggling, eh?" And then it just starts, and I'm like, God damn it! I'm trying to work
I
out
always
here.
say you were an announcer. You were an announcer. I was an announcer. I was an announcer.
But they all become critics, eh?
I love because I have so much stuff from all the teams, right? So I love when I put on a Vegas hat with an LA jacket with the Winnipeg Jets bottoms.
Oh my God.
or me going down to a game and going down to the dressing room and realizing that I'm wearing a Canucks thing and the Canucks aren't playing, so having to zip it up so nobody can see that I'm sitting in the St. Louis dressing room with the Vancouver Canucks. That's such a tool.
The funny thing is I did it a couple times. I put on Winnipeg shorts, LA shirt, and a Kunlun Red Star toque on workout. And I was walking out the door, and I think one of the kids is like, "What are you
Pick a
doing?
team.
What are you doing?" And I'm like, "It's funny, not funny."
Not funny.
I thought
No, it's hilarious. No, I'm that guy. I'm that guy that'll get on a plane with 3 different teams on. Here's a great so one day before we wrap, I'll tell this. I jump on a plane and I sit next to this guy. I walk in and he's sitting there and I see him wearing a Vancouver Grizzlies shirt.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm all excited. I'm like, this guy's got to be from Vancouver. I'm like, so everybody's wearing the jersey, right? And I'm like, but it's something about it I can't tell. There's something just off about it. And I go, hey, you from Vancouver? And he goes, no. He goes, why? And I go, well, you're wearing a Vancouver Grizzlies jersey, and not many people wear those at all. He goes, oh no, my band makes these, and they just give them to me, and I wear them. And I go, what band are you? And he goes, I'm in Wu-Tang. And
No.
I go, oh, what's your name? He goes, I'm Ghostface Killer.
No way.
Yeah. And I'm just like, well, I'm going to play Candy Crush over here and be very, very white. But
I wanted to ask you before we finish. I don't want to forget this. I wanted to ask you, like, as far as big stars, because being in LA and I've been there for many years, you don't really realize until you live there how many times like you just walking by and you're like, oh, there's that person. Right. Happens quite a bit. But you're actually in the profession. Do you have a story, a good one, a funny one, where and not I'm buddies with this person, but more like a horror story or this person's a douche story or
I got a good Brad Pitt story that's
Okay.
it's not.
I want to hear it.
I don't know if he's a douche, and because I still like him after. So I'm working on the red carpet for the SAG Awards about 10 years ago, and he's married to Angelina Jolie.
Right.
And so they tell me, hey, look, these two are coming over. There's a chance that you might interview him. I'm looking down the row because it's, one of those interview rows.
Right.
There's Entertainment Tonight, Hard Copy, like all the big names. And then there's Ian Bagg for the SAG Awards. I get Brad Pitt. So, yeah. Yeah. So I'm just like, well, let's make this interesting. So the interview starts and I go, so what's your name, fella? And he wasn't buying it at all.
No,
like, Brad Pitt. And I'm like, oh, that's nice. And I said, have you ever had a chocolate covered pretzel? He's like, he just looked at me. He just like looks at me and he's like, yeah. And he's like, just disgust. I'm like, oh, you are not going for this at all. You just, fucking little weasel. Come on. But he was busy paying attention to his wife at the time that was a couple over, and you could tell, now that he wasn't in a good spot in that relationship. So, but I loved being able to ask him, what's your name, fella? And I remember the publicist came up to me, can you act a little bit more excited? You didn't seem excited at all. And I go, well, it wasn't Wayne Gretzky.
No, that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted one of those because
awesome.
There's got to be so many of those.
I've had so many. I've had some interesting run-ins with people that I started with that are now stars, and you're just like, hey man, I've seen you bomb a lot. Shut the fuck up. So
that's no different in our profession.
Yeah, it's all good. I wouldn't throw anybody under the bus. Like, I think that's a really funny Brad Pitt story, and he might be a douche, but I don't think he is. I just think he was dealing with other stuff. But it's great to be able to have a guy go, I know.
You got to take some credit for when you start off the freaking conversation acting like, who the hell are you?
Yeah,
probably not the best. Probably not the best.
I thought he'd laugh. You don't know who I am. Why would you be at this? Well, I'm looking for Wayne Gretzky.
That's awesome. Hey,
I do a lot of on my show. I pretend it's sponsored by Wayne Gretzky, and I find these weird pictures of Wayne Gretzky. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, like there's one where he's just I'll send him to you, but he's just lying in a bed with Mr. Big chocolate bars and 7-Up and stuff on his Titan stick. And then there's another one. There's a bunch of them with his flow is just blonde as you wouldn't believe. Just like and then there's a couple of them with him not wearing shirts. And yeah, I find some great Wayne Gretzky photos. He's just awesome. So
he has some unreal ones, actually, especially once he got hooked up in LA. He he went Hollywood for sure.
He went Hollywood, but his hair when he was in Edmonton was pretty, all right.
Yeah. Not many people can rock that flow.
No.
Well, thank God. This went on a lot longer than I thought it would, which is totally cool. I thought, you know what, if maybe it'll be short, maybe it'll be long, but I had so much fun.
Thanks, bud.
I really appreciate you doing this, buddy, and hopefully I can continue to do this, and we'll hook up again. And get me on your show now that it's actually a show. The freaking Around the Bag. I couldn't believe it, man. You're so excited.
Okay, I'll get you back. All right. I'll get you back on.
Right on. Thanks so much, bud.
Thanks, man.
I want to give my sincere thanks to Ian Bagg for coming on the podcast and being my first guest. It's always such a gas talking with Ian. If you want to check out Ian and what he does, I recommend you go to Around the Bag at www.youtube.com/c/Ian Bagg Comedy Channel. And that's Bag with 2 G's, baby. You can also check out ianbagg.com for all his upcoming shows, and that I highly recommend, my friends. You go check it out and see him. It's hilarious. Anyways, I really hope you enjoyed the pod. If you did, I'd be stoked and grateful if you shared it with some friends. I'll leave you with a new indie song that I think is pretty cool. It's written and performed by my youngest son, Mac, and the song is called Use a Bitch. Happy holidays, everyone. Stay safe and God bless.
I don't pride myself, I don't ask no help, I don't get no relief, cause I'm a man I fell. I don't judge no one, no woman or son. Unlike you ain't got no one. No shame, no name, just a follower, use a snitch. No fame, no game, just a contributor. Use a bitch, riddle me this, riddle me that. All of this motion to get to the back. Hillary loves having a fun. All this motion to get with the done. Keep him in line, letting us die. Nothing to give except a lie. Texting the hell, then make him fight. Turn us away and then watch us die. No shame, no name, just a follower. Who's a snitch? No fame, no game, just a contributor.